Hi friends, good evening. So today in this session we are going to discuss about Linux file permissions. So in last Linux videos we have seen how to create files in Linux, how to create directories in Linux, how to delete them and how to again delete directories and creating users and deleting users. So all these topics we have discussed in our previous sessions. Today we are going to talk about Linux permissions, which is a very important concept for every Linux administrator or a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer. So whatever the position or whatever the designation that you are in, you should know about this Linux file permissions, right? So there are different ways that you can declare permissions for a file. Okay. So in Linux, so there are three different kinds of permissions. One is execute. So we note it as X, right? So and we have one more permission which is W, which is nothing but write. And we have one more permission that is read. So which can be indicated with R, right? So these are different permissions that we are going to give in Linux server or in Linux operating system. So we have these. How can we declare and how can we add, how can we change permission for a file? So first of all, let me confirm with one thing, guys. So if you are creating files, you are normally going to use a touch command to create some empty files, right? So I'm going to give file one, okay? If you do ls-lrt, you will be able to see the complete details about the file. So what is the user? What is the permissions that is a file is existed with? So all these details you are going to see in a detailed manner. So, but I have these permissions and this file is completely owned by the root user, but I don't want that. I need to have certain restriction on the file permissions and the ownership. So because in IT industries or in any company which you are working as a system administrator or DevOps engineers, so in your Linux boxes or even in AWS when you're working in virtual machines, you will not have complete privilege to modify any content in the files. So you will be having certain set of limitations which every engineer has to. So basically, how can we restrict this access? What are the different ways of restricting access? So here we need to understand, first of all, what are the permissions will be given to the files and to which these permissions will be given, right? So here we are going to discuss about that. If you see here what I have written, right? So the 0, 1, 2, 4. So these four codes you have to keep in mind. You have to remember, right? So 0 stands for no permission. So when a file is having a permission added as 0, that means you are not giving permission to anyone. No one can read it, no one can write it, no one can execute it, right? Except administrator. So here the file permissions will be denoted in a certain format, that is RWX. So this RWX stands for read, write, and execute, right? So in Linux box, we have three different set of users. So one is the users in the Linux server. The other one is the group of users. The other one is others, so which are not in the Linux box, but still they can access the server and they can access the files. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, so the first R is read, first W is next W is write, and X is for execute. So here in the file permission for user also, you will be having RWX. Same way in group, RWX, and same way for others, RWX. So when cumulatively, if you see the permission of a file will be hyphen rwx, rwx hyphen, right? So you already know that in a Linux, a file starts with hyphen and ends with a hyphen. So here in between rwx, which you are seeing 3 times in this format, right? So each time indicates for one particular group of people. So the first RWX indicates for users, the second RWX indicates for group, third RWX indicates for others, right? So I want to restrict. So now if you see in this particular format, user is having read, write, and execute. Group is also having read, write, and execute in the same way for others as well. So, but I want my user only he should have read and write permission, and rest of the people like group and others, they should not have this read, write, execute permission. So how can I restrict those kind of permissions? So in Linux, we have a command for restricting the permission, that is chmod, right? Chmod. So chmod stands for change mode of the file. Change mode of the file. So which means you have to change the permissions of a file, right? So if I want to change the permissions, let us consider. So I have this format, which is having complete access for user, group, and others. Now I want this file to only have access to users, not group and others. So how can I restrict that? So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a command like this, chmod, okay, chmod, and the permission that I'm going to give is 700, and I'm going to give the file name. So when you execute this command in your Linux box, you will see a format something like rwx hyphen 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 and a hyphen. That means, so the first 3 letters RWX stands for user, the next 3 hyphens, which again stands for group, the next 3 hyphens, which again stands for others, right? So here, let's see in a practical way. Let's go to the Linux box. So I have my file which is created now. And when I'm going to type ls-lrt, I will be able to see certain format, read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. So, but I see there is no executive permission for none of the people, rather neither user, neither group, neither other. So now I am going to give execute permissions only for users. That means I'm going to add execute permissions only for users. Users always stands with a letter called U, right? U for umbrella, U for user. So here I'm going to execute a command chmod, right? U stands for user. I'm adding the permission, and which permission I'm going to add to the user. X stands for execute, right? So U plus X. So user is given with executable permission and the file name, right? So the file name is file1. So when you execute this command, let's see what's going to happen. So there is a change that is happened in this particular file permission. Let's see that ls-lrt, the file color was turned into a green color, right? So you have to keep that in mind. A file which is having executable permissions for either group, either others, or either user. So if that file will be appeared in green color, right? So now I have added permission for user. What happens? What I need to do if I want to delete existing write permission for user? So how can I do that? So if you see here, The first three letters stands for RWX, which stands for user permissions, and the user is having read, write, and execute, right? So I want to delete the write permission for user. So how can I do that? Chmod u, if you want to add something, which is plus, and if you want to delete something, which is minus. So u minus x, and give the file name. Okay, I want to delete write permission, right? So u minus w, right? So, and you have to give the file name. That's it. When you hit enter, you will be able to see when you do ls-lrt, you can see that user is not having write permission in the first three letters, right? So W got removed. Okay, so this is how you can change permissions for user. So what happens in terms of group? Instead of you can add G over here, right? So I'm going to give executable permissions for group. So here, if you observe, the command is chmod. I'm going to give execute permissions for group, right? G stands for group. So plus is addition, X stands for execute, and I'm going to give the file name. When you hit enter, the file permissions will get updated, right? If you see the second R-X, which stands for group. So we have given an executable permission. Okay, so now, so there is a scenario where I want to add the permission for to the group, and I want to delete the permission for user in the same manner, right? So, or I want to add permissions for user and group in a single command. So how can I do that? So now, if you see, my user and group both doesn't have write permission, right? So I want to add write permission for that. So I'm going to execute a command chmod. I'm going to add permission for user as well as group, and which permission I'm going to add, right? So I'm going to give the file. So accumulatively, you are giving which people should have access to, write access to the file. And I'm not giving others, I'm restricting others. So guys, remember in Linux, when you are working in your enterprise level boxes, it is highly recommended that you should not have any permissions assigned to others rather than group and user, right? When you execute this command ls-lrt, you can see that I have given write permission for user and group in a single command. So this is how you can add the permission. So first of all, I need to tell you one particular point. You can manipulate, you can change the permissions in two different ways. One is alphabetical, which exactly I have shown you, and this is pretty simple. Everyone will understand that. So plus stands for addition, minus stands for deletion, U stands for user, and G stands for group, O stands for others, right? So here R stands for read, W stands for write, X stands for execute. So this is pretty common. So everyone will have this level of understanding. So, but there is a scenario you have to use, you have to give the file permissions with numbers, which is considered to be a best practice. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is, if you carefully observe the codes that I have given over here, 0 stands for no permission, 1 stands for execute, write stands for read, 2 stands for write, and 4 stands for read. So now let's say, for example, I want to give only read write permissions for user. I don't want execute permissions for user. At that point of time, how I'm going to do? So if you see the table over here, 4 stands for read, and 4 plus 2, 2 stands for write. So what is the value of 4 plus 2? that is 6, right? So when you give a permission like 600, that means 0 stands for no permission and 6 stands for read and write without execute, right? So how can I frame a command with the help of this? Chmod 600 and give the file name, right? So that means here, what is the permission will look like? So for the users, I'm going to give read, write, no execute. Okay. So and rest of the people, they don't have any permissions. Hyphen, 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 hyphen. That's it. So only these permissions will be appearing for your particular file. So let's execute this command and test. So here I'm going to use chmod 600 and file1. And if you do ls-lrt, that's the same. rw, where there is no executable, read, write, rather for group and others. Okay, that's fine. I have added read, write. What happens? I want to give execute as well, right? So here you have added 4 plus 2, which are read and write. So if I want to give read, write, execute all the permissions, you have to add 4 plus 2 plus 1. How much it is? 7. So that means you have to give a permission like 700. So now if you frame the command chmod 700 and the file name, then that comes the permission like this: hyphen rwx hyphen 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 hyphen. That's it. You can see the command by executing over here chmod 700. So file 1, do ls-lrt, you will be able to see the same format which I have shown you right now: read, write, execute for users. Okay, that's fine. So how can I add for only group? So now I have shown you only for users. Now how can I add permission for group, right? I don't want any permissions for the users. Okay, so let's see that. So I'm going to give a command chmod, right? So I'm going to give all the permissions for group first, and then I'm going to give only the read permission, which is 4 for group, right? Only read. I'm not going to give write or execute. And I'm going to give it 0, which is for others. Again, no permission, not even write or not even read. And give the file name over here. And when you do ls-lrt, you will be able to see rwx along with another r. So this r stands for read permission for groups. Okay, so what happens if I want to give read and only execute, right? So if you see here, read is 4 and execute is 1. So I'm going to skip 2. So that means when I'm going to give 4 plus 1, which is equal to 5, if you just add 5, so the user will not have write permission. So because the 2 is skipped here, right? So I'm going to give a command like this: chmod, so 750. So here the permissions again will change. Along with read, I'm going to skip right over here and you will get a executable permission over here. So let's see that. Give a file name and do ls-lrt. Yes, that's it. We got it. So what happens if I want to give only executable permissions for others, not read and write? So how can I do that? So let's see the command chmod, right? So 701, which stands for 7 is for the users or read, write, execute. 0 is for the group, no permission, and I'm going to give file 1. And when you do ls-lrt, you can see the permission in the same way. You have executable permission for others. Okay, so this is how you can basically give the permissions for all the different files. I'm going to put all this command sheet in the description. If you do like the content, please share and subscribe. So in the coming videos, we are going to see how can I change file ownership? All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Bye.